So please help me welcome Matt Paprocki to the stage.
Clap along if you feel like a room without a roof.
Thank you.
Clap along if you
Thank
feel
you.
like happiness is the truth. Because I'm happy.
Welcome to Chicago. Welcome to one of the greatest cities in the world. This is a city of underdogs, and a city that's often overlooked. You see that in our nickname, the second city. But you're going to find out over the next few days why this city is second to none. I fell in love with this place nearly 20 years ago when I got my first job out of college. I was a staffer for the Illinois General Assembly, and I saw firsthand the impact that public policy could have to improve people's lives. I loved that job. But I got a call one day at work that changed my life. It was a call from my mother. I picked up the phone and I could hear her voice trembling. I knew something was wrong. She said, "Matt, I've been having this pain in my stomach, and I went to the hospital. I'm still there now. They just diagnosed me with stomach cancer." I felt the life run out of my body. And it wasn't the first time I got a phone call like this. Just 6 years prior, my father had passed away from cancer. So I'm sitting in my office chair, I'm crying, and I walked into my boss's office, and I said to him, I can't work here anymore. I need to go home and take care of my mother full time. And so I had the honor of taking care of the woman who raised me, the woman who I love with every bit of my heart. But I think as everybody in this room knows, the pains of cancer are terrible. And every day she got frailer and frailer. And one cold December day, I got on the ground and I was rubbing her feet. And she opened her eyes just a little, and a weak smile crosses her face. She closes her eyes, and she dies. I was in my early 20s, and I had lost everything I'd ever loved. Both my parents had died of cancer. I had no job. I hadn't worked in the last 8 months, so I had no income. I remember every single day I would get dozens of phone calls from collection agencies looking for me to pay my bills. When I went to my studio apartment just a few blocks north of here, I flipped on the light switch and the electricity was cut off. And I remember that smell of the rotten food from my refrigerator and how I had to spend the entire day cleaning it out. I walked down to the train station because I needed to go back to my mother's house. I took out my wallet and I looked inside, and I didn't have $2 to my name. I was beyond poor. And my first thought was, I have to get on that train. And I look at the turnstile and I think, I can jump that. And as I walked over, I hear this voice in the back of my head saying, "Matt, what are you doing?" So I turned around. My heart starts racing because I know what I'm going to have to do. I'm going to have to beg. So I see a man walking towards me. He had gray hair, would have been about my father's age. My heart's racing. I'm sweating. I'm nervous. And I say to him, "Please, sir, I just need a little bit of help. I need to get on this train." And I'll never forget, he wouldn't even look me in the face. He walked by me, and I heard him mutter, "Get a job." And I felt something right there that I've never felt in my life. It's this combination of shame, of a lack of purpose, of hopelessness. And there's a word for it. It's called despair. At that point in my life, I was eligible for every welfare program imaginable. Section 8 housing, SNAP benefits, but I never took them. Because the idea of going to government and filling out those forms, of begging them for money, of letting them take away my agency, well, it took away that filled me with despair. That same despair that I felt while begging. Because what changed my life, it wasn't people giving me enough money to ride on that train. It wasn't government giving me a handout. What changed my life was another phone call I got 2 weeks later. I found a job. I found dignity. I found purpose. People needed me. Right? And that dignity was so important because that's something that no welfare program can ever give to people. And I learned one of the most important lessons of my life, that the solution to poverty and despair isn't handouts. It's the dignity of work. Take, for example, some data from the Census Bureau. Every year they track poverty rates. And for the last 60 years, the poverty rate has been around 13%. But this number is absolutely incorrect. Senator Phil Gramm wrote in his new book, The Myth of American Inequality, that when you take back in wealth transfers, Section 8 housing, SNAP benefits, the refundable portion of the earned income tax credit, the poverty rate in America isn't 13%. It's 1.1%. My first thought is we did it, everyone. We've solved poverty. My next thought was, that doesn't make sense. Right, go take a trip over to San Francisco and see what's happening in the streets there. Go and visit downtown Denver. Go see what's happening in Philadelphia. And what's happening in our major cities today is they're filled with despair, and it's a disaster. And one of the worst effects of this despair is what Princeton economist Ann Case calls deaths of despair. This is alcohol abuse, drug overdose, and suicide. And it's happening in its highest rate in America than ever before. And it's happening primarily to one group of people: men without jobs who are on welfare. And the effects of this is that for the first time in American history, life expectancy has gone down. This is not from COVID. This is not from bad diets. This is happening primarily because people on government programs are killing themselves. America needs to do better, and America will do better. That's why the Illinois Policy Institute is launching the Center on Poverty Solutions, an innovative new center where our focus is to solve one of the biggest problems in America today: restoring the dignity of work. And we're doing this through our research. We found out that the people who can affect the most change are the hundreds of direct service agencies who are in our cities right now, who are helping work with the poor and the disadvantaged to lift them up. But there's something standing in their way: government. And so we are coming alongside with them to help them pass free market legislation right here in the city of Chicago so that they can move more people from welfare to work. And we're going to do it in a blue city like Chicago. Better yet, we want to work with all of our allies here in this room to help pass laws in your cities, in your states, with your guidance and with our support. Because what we're not talking about is it's not a white paper. We're talking about people. People like my friend Stephen Blake, who's here with us tonight. Stephen. I love this man. I love this man. Stephen was homeless in the city of Chicago in 0-degree temperatures. He felt the depths of despair. And what changed Stephen's life? It wasn't a government handout. What changed this man's life is he's an entrepreneur. He started selling fresh fruit to commuters on their way to work. And through that work, he found dignity. And through that work, he found a home. And through that work, he started employing 2 people who are currently homeless to go work for him. And I promise you, they will not be homeless for long. Because here's what Stephen knows. The solution to poverty and despair, it's not handouts. It's the dignity of work. We're fighting for people like Claudia Perez. Claudia wakes up at 4:30 every morning and makes homemade and delicious tamales to feed her neighbors and to provide for her family. But government told her she can't push a food cart in the city of Chicago. They took away her dignity, so we told her story to City Hall. We introduced legislation, and we won. Thank you. Claudia can't be with us here today because she's over in the Pilsen neighborhood in Chicago's West Side pushing a food cart, legally selling tamales, feeding her neighbors, and providing for her family. Because what Claudia Perez knows is that the solution to poverty and despair is not handouts. It's the dignity of work. There's a quote that is often misattributed to Edmund Burke, and it's, "For evil to prevail, good men must do nothing." Actually, Edmund Burke never said this line. What he actually said was this: when bad men combine, the good must associate, else they will fall one by one in an unpitied and contemptible struggle. That's what we're doing here, right now. We're combining, we're associating, we're solving the biggest problems in the United States of America today. And together here at this conference, we can fight for more opportunities and less handouts. Together here in this room, we can fight for more prosperity and for more dignity and less poverty. Together in this room, we can fight for the poor and disadvantaged, all the people who have been overlooked and all the underdogs. And the best part about this is a fight that we're going to win. And it all starts right here, right now, in the city of Chicago. Welcome to our city. Thank you for joining us in this fight. Thank you.